Hello, happy Wednesday. Hello, cyber world. I hope everybody's having a great day so far today. I am back home after my adventures last night in Portland. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, I was up at the Backstreet Boys concert last night in Portland, Oregon. I live in Eugene, so it's a little bit of a trip for me, but it was fun to go up with my two friends, Rochelle and Danielle. They are sisters and have been in this journey as a Backstreet Boys fan with me the entire time. And it's been so fun. We've had so many adventures and it's led us into so many different parts of our life. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because I have definitely gotten a lot of, flack and teasing and people wanting to poke fun at me in the past for being a Backstreet Boys fan. But it truly has, hi Heather, thanks for joining. It truly has had so many, it's been such an impactful part of my life for so long and led me down so many different interesting paths. And and so for me, it means a lot more than just being a fan of a pop group. So that's what I wanted to get into a little bit today and just kind of tell you a few of the life lessons that I have learned that have stemmed in part from being a Backstreet Boys fan for 20 plus years. So I first remember, I guess I should go back a little bit. I was a New Kids on the Block fan when I was in junior high. So that was my first dip into being a boy band fan. So when the Backstreet Boys came out in 1997 in the US is when I first heard about them. I definitely poo-pooed them. I was not another boy band. Nobody can compare to New Kids. So I tried to, ignore them for a long time. And then there was a turning point. The song All I Have to Give came out. I liked As Long As You Love Me. I liked it, but I didn't really want to admit it. But then when All I Have to Give came out, I was pretty much hooked, and it had a lot to do with this blonde guy named Nick Carter. So, it was just a fun thing, and Rochelle didn't really want any part of it for a long time because she was not a New Kids fan and did not want to be a boy band fan. But pretty soon she couldn't help it anymore, and together we became, yes, Heather, we did lose our minds temporarily. Now, it actually was very helpful for me to be obsessed with Nick Carter in those younger years, because it protected me from a lot of probably, dysfunctional relationships and hurt and heartache, because I didn't want any other guys. I only wanted him, but that's a whole nother story. So anyway, one of the first things that happened when we became Backstreet Boys fans is, of course, we knew that they were from Orlando. That was a big topic back then. They started in Orlando, they became big in Orlando, and then they moved over to Europe and then came back to the US. So it definitely sparked our interest in Orlando as a place. And at that same time, we had a friend who worked at the gym that we went to all the time who was moving to Orlando. See, this is another part of a life lesson that I was not going to include, Heather, but it is important because this comes up over and over again. People think and like to say and like to tell the story to other people that we moved to Orlando just to follow the Backstreet Boys. Now, that of course had something to do with our interest, had everything to do with our interest in the city of Orlando. But because our friend moved there and was like, you should come visit, I have a room you can stay in and it'll be great, it's sunny, and neither of us had been to Florida. So we took him up on the offer. We went to Florida for 2 whole weeks and stayed with his family in their extra bedroom, drove their car all over the place. They had a Jeep Wrangler that we could take the top off of. We went to Fort Lauderdale, we went to Cocoa Beach, we went all over up and down the I-4 corridor, which is the interstate there in Orlando, and we just had the time of our lives. And in fact, while we were there, we got up close and personal with AJ McLean of the Backstreet Boys more than once. met fun people, went to the Hard Rock Cafe's Christmas party. We got invited because we met people, and we just realized, like, this is where we need to be as a 21 and 19-year-old girl who were super bored living in Oregon. And so that led us to decide to move to Orlando. So that life lesson, which is not part of my 3, is that people will continue to tell the story about you that is most beneficial or funny, or, you know, if somebody believes something about you, even if you tell them like, hey, that's not actually how it happened, they'll continue to tell that story. So people continue to say that we moved to Orlando just because of the Backstreet Boys. We like to laugh, and sometimes we don't even like try to argue, but that's really not the only reason. But it was a huge benefit once we got there. So life lesson number 1 is that if you set your mind to something, or if you believe that you can and will achieve it, it makes sense, Heather. I mean, unless you tell the whole story, it makes sense that people think we moved there just for that. But if you are determined to achieve something, or if you decide that it's going to happen, you can make it happen. And that was one thing that happened. Like, my mom likes to say all the time, you know, you moved to Orlando, you loved the Backstreet Boys, and the next thing I knew, you were sending me photographs of you with them and all these different places that you went and met them. And that is absolutely what happened. We got over there and we wanted to meet them, and we did. Like I said, that first trip, even just visiting, we got really close with AJ. I mean, in a, you know, proximity sense. We were right there next to him. We got our picture with him. But like last night, for example, last night we went to the concert and we had 11th row seats. Now 11th row is great. 11th row on the floor. We were very close to the stage, but we were 11th row, like off to the left. And so we got into our seats and we're like, okay, well, these are good, but we always are trying to get closer if there's any way that we can. So I was scoping out some of the seats up front closer to where we wanted to be, and I was noticing that there were 2 whole rows that were completely empty through the entire opening act. So after the opening act, which was Brian's son, who happens to be a singer now too, hey David, we went up, we left, we went and got a glass of wine, and I was like, okay, here's the plan. When we go back down, we're going to come, go through security, like we know exactly where we're going. We're not letting them check our tickets so that they can try to tell us to go back to those other seats, and we are going to go straight around into that middle row and get into those front seats. And we did. So we get up there, and one of the rows had actually been occupied by other people, and then the other one was still completely open. The seats were still like in the upright position, like nobody had sat in them. So we just moved on in, and we sat there like we owned that row, and we never got asked to move. Nobody ever came and claimed the seats. And we got to watch from center stage, 8th row, the entire rest of the concert. It was freaking incredible. And, I had lots of eye contact with the boys. So, so I said, as we were sitting in the seats in the 11th row, I was like, we will be in those seats. You just watch. And it happened. And when I said it, I had full determination and belief in my mind. And when you approach anything with that sort of determination and belief that you will achieve it, you will achieve it. And that happened over and over and over again with us, with the Backstreet Boys when we were in Florida, and also since then. Okay, so life lesson number 2 is life is full of ups and downs. Life's full of boring times. Life's full of, just sort of mundane, everyday stuff. So when something is incredible, when something is, full of joy and excitement, you need to slow down and realize that this is a moment to be absorbed and absorb it. So I learned long ago, so when we used to go to the Backstreet Boys concerts, this was before cell phones, we would bring in our camera. No, there were a couple different ways this happened. We went so early on in technology that we would bring a camera that had, rolls of film in it. we would bring like 3 or 4 extra rolls of film. So we had to pack that with our camera. We had to bring extra batteries just in case the batteries died. And our mission was to like photograph and document as much of this concert as we could. And what we found after several times of doing this is that we were spending so much time trying to document the concert and like be reloading film and checking the batteries and making sure everything was perfect for this, you know, photographing session, that we felt we missed the concert. Like the concert would be over and we felt that we watched the whole thing through the lens of the camera. So even last night, and then the other part for me is I want to be fully present when I'm at something like this, not just Backstreet Boys concerts. Anytime I see a concert or an act of some sort that I'm really, really excited about, or, you know, really love the musicians, I make sure that I am of right mind. So what that means is I don't drink very much when I go to concerts, if at all. And I was seeing last night, because I want to remember it, like I want to remember it. I don't want it to be fuzzy. I don't want it to fly by and, you know, just be this like haze of whatever. So I make sure that I don't drink very much, if at all. I make sure that if I'm going to try to, you know, film it or take pictures, like I do it and then I put my phone back away. Like I want to be watching the concert through my eyes. You know, I'm 20 feet away from the Backstreet Boys. How often does that freaking happen? I'm going to be there and notice it and like, you know, look somebody in the face as opposed to through my camera lens and just trying to film it or get as many clips or pictures as I can. So I do that a little bit. As you can see in my stories, I definitely documented it, but that was just intermittent clips. And then I put my phone away and I would be present and enjoy it. So I saw so many people last night like drinking a lot. We had these girls next to us. They were clearly wasted. Some of the people in front of me just had their phones up the entire time, just recording, like 3-minute long videos. Like they were literally watching the concert through their phone screen as opposed to watching it in person, because that's where we were. We were that close, and these people were in 7th row and they were still watching it through the phone screen. So slow down, enjoy the moments when life is good, when you're having fun, when you're at an event you've been looking forward to. Soak it in, realize that this is, you know, one of life's big, fun, awesome moments, because as adults, if you've lived any amount of time, you know that life is not always fun, it's not always joyful, it can be very routine, and when it's not routine, enjoy the moment, be there, have fun. So that is life lesson number 2. Life lesson number 3. Okay, so I don't know if any of these people will watch this, but we met some amazing people when we lived in Orlando, and didn't know this when we met them, but we met them, and it was actually funny. Rochelle and I were leaving the club. So Howie, one of the Backstreet Boys, was part owner of a club downtown, and of course we went there, right? Of course we went there. So we went there and we developed relationships with the bouncers there, with the security guards, and it got to a point where we were like VIP all the time. We didn't have to pay to be VIP. We didn't have to get on the list for VIP. We were just always VIP. We could go up to the VIP section. We could get into the VIP squared, which is like the roped off section within the VIP. So Howie would come party at that club because he owned it, and we'd get to go in there and, you know, mingle and hobnob with him. So one night we were there, and when we left, we saw a limo parked on the curb. You know, of course, our brains were like, is that somebody famous? Well, it was not somebody famous that we knew of, but we did, you know, peek in and wanted to know what was going on, and they were like, come on in, we're, you know, it's a bachelorette party, or a bachelor party, and so being, you know, 22 and 20, as we were, I don't know how Rochelle got into those clubs at 20, don't ask me any more questions about that, but we jumped in the limo, and come to find out they were Howie's friends who had just been at the club with us, and they were on their way to a party that he was going to be at. And so it was like this huge stroke of luck. Now, we did drive all over Orlando that night and never made it to Howie's party, but we developed friendships with these guys, and then, you know, in the process found out they knew him, and they became people who many times, it is unsafe, Heather. I would not recommend just jumping in a limo and riding off with strange men. However, we did it and it worked out. But many times they, you know, became really great connections for us. Just in 2014, if you haven't seen the picture of me and Danielle with all 5 Backstreet Boys, that was because our friend Lewis, who we've stayed in touch with this entire time, did I get home by 10? I think I got in the limo at like 2 a.m., so probably not, David. Anyway, point is, he's the one who, through his special connections and friendship with Howie, got us those backstage passes and seat upgrades in 2014. So you never know who is who, and you know, it just is a good idea to network, make connections, have relationships with people out of a place of truly wanting to connect and, you know, meet people. But you just never know how those friendships and connections will play out in the future, and how those could become much more meaningful, not only for, you know, like what you can get out of them, but what you could potentially give to another person at some point. So that is what I have to say. 3 life lessons that I've learned as a Backstreet Boys fan, probably more. I mean, I also learned lots of dance moves and how to sing really good and really loud. But number 1, if you can set your mind to it and believe, not Howie Mandel, David. If you can set your mind to it and believe that you can and are determined to achieve something, you most likely will. Number 2, be in the moments of joy. Recognize when you are in a special moment that could be fleeting, because you never know. That 2 hours goes by fast, I will tell you that. Enjoy it, soak it in, you know, just love the good moments. And then number 3 is network, build relationships, foster your relationships and friendships, and you never know how those will play out in the future and when they will become so much more meaningful. So thank you for watching. I had a great night last night. I'm still coming down from it, feeling a little actually depressed that it's over, but I just wanted to come on here and share all of that with you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.